All right, it's great to be back, Trash Talkers. Once again, we're here to discuss all things trash TV, which currently includes the latest season of The Bachelorette, featuring the lovely Katie Thurston. For those of you tuning in for the first time, I'm your host, Emily, and I'm joined by my co-host, Nash. Before we get too far into things, let's do a quick update on what's been happening in Bachelor Nation since Matt James' season wrapped up a few months ago. For those who don't follow along in the off-season, Chris Harrison is gone for good. You might be happy about it, you might be sad about it, but that's 19 years of a career come to an end with a 8-figure salary to end it, so not a bad deal for him. For those who did follow along with the Matt and Rachel racism drama that kind of overtook the entire season last year, not only are they back together despite being broken up after the rose ceremony, they're also starting to move in together. So, for those of you who thought they just broke up because of social media, you were probably right. It seemed little to do with any growth, mostly to do with cancel culture, as if anyone was surprised. For fans who were watching along with Matt James' season and Tayshia season, you might recall Piper James and Brendan Morris. They're actually dating now, which has been confirmed. It was rumored for a while, but they have confirmed it on social media, it seems, so we'll see how that one goes. Two Bachelor alums dating. How can that ever go wrong? And then we have, for the fans of Bachelor in Paradise, which is set to begin in August, instead of Chris Harrison, who's now gone with his 8-figure salary on his own Paradise, I'm sure, we have two previous Bachelor alums hosting, and it's going to be a tirade of other celebrity hosts as well, one of them being David Spade. I feel like David Spade should take over permanently, personally, but
Without
we'll
a
see
doubt.
how he does. That's just a little bit of a glimpse of everything that's been happening. It's only been a few months, but there has been a lot. So, Nash, what'd you make of all of that?
Oh, well, me, I've just been, so following that so closely and intently. I love David Spade. I think that's hilarious. I was also thinking, I feel like Snoop Dogg would be an incredible host for the show.
I agree. Snoop Dogg, I feel like the best host for this show, especially Bachelor in Paradise, I feel like The Bachelor Bachelorette is a lot more of an emotional journey, and it is people really trying to find themselves and find their love. Bachelor in Paradise, that's kind of happening, but it's more so everyone getting drunk half naked on a beach for a few months and hooking up with each other, So I feel like the more random and the more obscure the hosts are, honestly, the better the viewing experience is going to be, because you don't really need as much of that grooming and catering and emotional support as you might. So I feel like David Spade, I think, is actually going to get really, really into it, more probably than people are thinking he's going to be into it. And I think that's just going to add a whole nother layer of entertainment to the entire thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's really sink or swim for Mr. Spade. I think that could be a nice viewpoint for us dedicated followers.
Yeah, I honestly have never really seen Bachelor in Paradise. I've never cared to. Hearing that David Spade was potentially going to be a host completely changed my opinion on that. I will be watching. But for those who did watch last seasons of The Bachelor with Matt James, you're already familiar with this season's Bachelorette, Katie Thurston. She was one of the competitors vying for Matt's heart. The date that sent her home, for those who might not recall, was their Practical Jokers bit that they did with Tyler Cameron. They seemed to have a great time together. Matt was much more infatuated with Tyler than he was Katie, and she went packing. But now she's got about 30 men to choose from starting off this season, so that's honestly not a bad deal. You get paid to date 30 men for the summer in an exotic location. I don't think she's got many complaints about it anymore. But you may also remember, in a big controversy around her as a person and as a contestant, she's very, very sex positive. For a lot of people, that was kind of funny. For some people, it was a little off-putting. I feel like that is really going to be a theme we're going to see continued into this season. But I have very high expectations for Katie. I know some people think she's, this perfect top tier person because she stood up for Sarah last season. Other people think she's just another white feminist who everyone's going to adore because she's white and because she's a feminist. We'll see what it actually turns out to be. I think it's going to be a combination of those things. I think when you put anyone into the spotlight, you're going to have people who are going to idolize them and who are going to want to tear them down because they're being idolized, when in reality, these are just everyday, regular people who got chosen to be on a reality show, and some of them happen to continue. So I try to be a little more understanding, I think, than most of Bachelor Nation when it comes to the judgment of both the Bachelor, Bachelorette, and the contestants on the show. But we'll see. It looks like she's got a lot of interesting men to choose from, for lack of a better term. And there's a lot to go over from this first episode, so let's get right into it. Let's talk about our new host. Obviously, Chris Harrison is gone, making way for Bachelor alums Tayshia Adams and Caitlin Bristow to be our new two co-hosts for this season. Whether or not they continue to be the host is unknown yet. However, they've both been in Katie's shoes, Tayshia rather recently, which ended in her getting engaged to Zach Clark. They appear to still be engaged, still to be very happy, which is always a good sign. Personally, I think they're going to add a new sense of life into the host position of The Bachelor. Chris Harrison was always great for the emotional support and being someone who's older. He's seen a lot more. He seems to have this kind of therapist type of role. But I think we're going to see something very, very different from Tayshia and Caitlin. It's going to be more of a older sister type of vibe. What do you think, Nash?
I hated it. I personally, it felt very fake to me. It felt forced. Mainly from Caitlin. I'm getting bad vibes from Caitlin. I'm sorry to upset the dear listeners. It didn't seem very genuine to me from her angle. And I hate to see it forced. That's just my take. That's my hot take, if you will.
Is that your hot take because it's pretty much the exact opposite of my take?
No, it's just, that's what I felt when I was watching it. Like, Tayshia, I didn't notice, anything. It's like, okay, she's behaving like a human, like a normal human would. But I just felt like Caitlin, I don't know, her attitude or just her tone or something, it just seemed a little off. It seemed a bit phony to me. And another thing I'm curious about is how they're getting paid.
Oh, I'm sure they're getting paid beautifully. Tayshia left her recent fiance in New York City to go to New Mexico and quarantine for 3 months. I'd say the pay is probably pretty good.
Yeah, but I don't know if they would be willing to spend the money to hire 2 new people for the same amount they were paying him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they definitely wouldn't be getting paid as much. And now that you mention it, I think it is interesting that they chose 2 co-hosts versus hiring 1 host. That is an interesting decision. But I like the idea of previous bachelorettes supporting the current bachelorette as much as I would like the idea of a former bachelor being the coach and the support system for the current bachelor. I think that'd be a really interesting dynamic to implement in seasons that come after this. Whether or not that's the approach they're going to take, we have no idea yet. I do have a feeling that Tayshia and Caitlin probably won't co-host more than 1 season. I feel like that'd be a bit much. I feel like the Bachelor franchise is kind of testing the waters because this was not their original plan. They were probably going to have Chris Harrison on until they drove this show into the ground. If the whole, controversy with his interview with Taylor Lindsay didn't happen the way it did, I don't think we'd be seeing this change. So I think the
definitely.
Bachelor franchise and the producers of the show are probably just as confused about what they're going to do next as everyone else is. I feel like this is just to test the waters and see what happens.
I don't like it.
I like it, and I want to see it continue. Whether or not it does, no idea. But let's start to talk about the guys this season. I think it's an interesting group. And I feel like it was bound to be an interesting group because Katie's kind of an interesting person. But one thing that really struck me about this group of men was that all of them looked like someone else. Whether they looked like a previous Bachelor contestant, a celebrity, or anyone else, like there was nothing that struck me as each of these men came out. None of them stood out for me. Like I didn't see any of them and was like, wow, look at that guy in a good way. I mean, obviously you got a reaction from Catsuit and Boxman, but aside from them, Katie was like, oh, these guys are 10s, they're all 10s, they're all 10s. And I feel like as we watch, we start to find these men more attractive and see that, and maybe they look different on camera. I don't know, but I wasn't like blown away by any of them visually. Like they all seem great and they are attractive, but I was not like, wow, like these men are great. Like for Claire and Tayshia's season, I felt that way. I was like, wow, all of these men are absolutely beautiful. Like this is insane. And I feel like that same attention wasn't given to Katie, but that might have been because of what they were looking for. Because I also feel like she's not the type of contestant that is necessarily looking for, the next American Eagle model and previous NFL football star to walk out of that limo on the first night. She seems like she's looking for more of a genuine emotional connection versus the physical one that tends to grab many people's attention first.
I thought it was weird because I think like most of them had like tech jobs, which I don't know, so I can't compare it to anything. I just thought that was weird. Man, I thought they all looked like cartoon characters. All right, I thought they all had like some type of feature or something that it made them look very distinct, and I was like, nobody here like looks kind of like a plain person. You know what I mean? Like,
See, I feel like the general consensus is actually the exact opposite, where everyone does look kind of like a very plain person. Like these look like very, to me at least, they all looked like very approachable men.
I mean, yeah, I guess they looked approachable. I feel like they all had some type of feature or character trait that made them seem like I would see them at some point in like an after school special. Like they would be one of the kids in the hallway.
Yeah, one of the Glee stars.
No, exactly. That's honestly what it felt like was, okay, that's that person, that's that person. That's what it felt like to me. Also, something that really pisses me off. Oh, is that a bad word? I don't know. Anyway, is the trend of having your pants be too short.
Yeah,
your dress pants be
I
too
noticed
short?
that. It certainly is a new trend, I'd say, in men's fashion. I don't know that it's one I'm partial to, but it is something that's happening.
It's just like you can't find pants that fit. And like, here's the thing, 'cause I understand, like, definitely the more mainstream way you see it is you get guys that have like an inch, like, between the shoe and their pants, which I think is more common. But there was somebody that straight up had their pants like halfway up their calf, like it wasn't even close to being like to their ankle, and I was like, it just looks like your pants don't fit. I don't.
Well, to be fair, Matt James' clothes never really fit him when he walked out either. All of his pants were too short, and it seemed like for him it was not always intentional.
Yeah, that made sense because he was very tall. He's a very tall guy, and I was always curious whether he did that on purpose or whether it was just a fact of him being super tall.
All right, Nash. So, real honest question here. If you're in a group of 30 men and you have 30 seconds to impress the same girl as the rest of these men, what are you doing and what angle are you taking to stand out and get that first impression rose that night?
Sunglasses, I'm shirtless with short shorts on and in flip-flops. Done.
That's it. That's your only angle.
I walk in, okay? I'd like to preferably stumble out of something and just be like, nice to meet you. I'm gonna go grab a drink. Mysterious. They love it. They're enticed by that. All right, that's how you get them. You put the bait on the line, then you just reel it in the whole season. That's all you do. That shows confidence with the whole outfit. They're like, wow, they are not afraid of anything on TV. They just stumbled out in short shorts and flip flops with sunglasses on at night. They don't care. They are an alpha. They are running life on their own path. And yeah, I think from there, you just behave like a normal person. Let the idiots kind of fight amongst each other. I just feel like that's the best way to go. I was actually thinking about this while it was happening. I was like, I don't get the people that don't do something that's like memorable to some degree.
Yeah.
I feel like some of them, do memorable stuff, but it's kind of like stupid. Like that box idea, brilliant idea.
I love the box.
Brilliant idea. You're putting all that mystery in there. Oh, he's a special boy in a special box that you have to work for. Oh, he's different than the rest. Brilliant idea. And so I kind of base my idea a little bit off of that, where just being totally out there, establishing absolute confidence. It's not showing a lack of interest, but it's more of treating you like a human being. Because at the end of the day, when all the drama heats up, that's all you're going to want to need. You're going to want the guy who's out there tanning in the short shorts. I wear them the whole season, different colors, maybe 3 pairs, and that's it. And that's I feel like the way you win every time.
All right. Yes and no. I agree with the long-term approach, but where you say the confidence and it makes them feel like a human, I kind of disagree, because under normal circumstances, like, yeah, but at the same time, you have 30 seconds to make this girl feel better than any other guy is going to in that lineup. And to act casual and cool and confident can easily come off as disinterested and not caring. So I totally disagree with you. I think you get sent home because it looked like you didn't want to be there. You get sent home the first night. So you would only really need 1 pair of shorts, not 3.
I think that works in my favor, personally.
Well,
I think that exactly would work in my favor.
You tell yourself that.
I've got signs to prove it.
Anyway, let's look at what the contestants actually did. So we had Aaron, who started trouble on his first night, which we definitely need to talk about. Aaron's the one who went up to the other guy and was like, I don't like you, and I never liked you, and that's your fault. So this guy came out, guns a-blazing. We have no idea why. Nobody knows what's up with that. I'm sure we're going to learn. But I feel like to put that in on the first episode and then, like, not touch it again is kind of like, okay, so were we just going to ignore that? Like, what are we doing with this? Because I feel like the Bachelor producers, once they can get a little bit of a hook in some drama, they're just going to drag that little bit of drama out for at least 3 or 4 episodes. So I was a little shocked that we didn't see more of that. However, that being said, I always complained about them dragging out the drama last season, so I feel a little hypocritical even bringing that up, but I feel like starting drama on night 1 of all things is a really, really bold move. Aaron might be a plant from the producers if that was his angle. I guess we'll have to see, because they didn't give us anything to know, anything about the guy, anything about the situation.
Yeah.
We only have that moment.
Alluding to backstory when I have absolutely none of it. Kind of like that one, was it Rachel last season, who was accused of being a prostitute or accused somebody of being a woman for hire.
Yeah, there was that whole situation.
Person. Like there's all this backstory and drama. It's like, okay, all right. This guy hasn't liked you from the start. I've known you all for about 20 seconds, so.
And here's the thing that I don't get. Well, first of all, I always wonder when these guys come in and they're like, as soon as I saw you were the Bachelorette, I was so interested, which always makes me think, like, do these guys watch the Bachelorette on The Bachelor on their own? Like, it's not the usual audience, nothing wrong with that, but I always wonder that. And then if that's the case, assuming they watch and assuming they're familiar with the show and the way it functions, I would think if you're gonna be on one of these shows, you'd take a little bit of a notice as to what hasn't worked for people. Like, clearly starting drama early on has never worked for anyone. So it's like, if your objective is there to win the girl over and get engaged, you're not going to be starting drama on the first night. And you're honestly probably not going to be starting drama on any night because you have an objective to acquire. You are not trying to get involved in the petty drama. No one who's gotten involved in petty drama has ever made it to the end of the show. So if these guys are like, oh, I watched your season, blah, blah, this and that, it's like, well, did you really? Because you clearly didn't take any type of notes. But you know who did take notes? Connor B, Catsuit. Let's talk about it.
That was weird.
Yeah. I saw that and I was like, this is such a serious... Well, when it opened up to him playing ukulele in the bathtub, I was like, all right, this is already starting off pretty weird. And then he continued to talk, and I was like, yeah, this guy's definitely... He's himself, for sure.
He's himself, for sure.
But when he rolled out in the cat suit, I was like, oh my god, like, I can appreciate bold, but I think this is a step too far into weird. And then the fact that Katie was so into it, I was like, I'm not going to be prepared to predict anything this season because I would not have predicted that she was into the catsuit.
Catsuit was weird. Not as effective as short shorts would have been, but, you know, it got him where he needed to be. The pause, I think, were the most disturbing for me.
Yeah, the pause were pretty bad. Like, there were several points into the night where it's like, you should take those off by now. Like, the fact that you're still wearing them. Because the suit, okay, we get it. You can't get out of the suit right now. But the pause could have came off at any point in time, and they just chose to keep them on. And I imagine it was probably extremely, extremely hot in that suit.
So hot.
Like, they're in New Mexico. They're not in PA in the middle of winter. Like, he doesn't need to keep warm. I'm sure he was sweating in that suit, but he did get a kiss from Katie. And not only did he get a kiss from Katie, I don't know if you noticed this, Nash, he smeared his nose and whiskers all over her face during that interaction, which I thought in and of itself was hilarious. Like, I wasn't happy that she was so into Catman, but it was kind of worth it just for that moment of pure comedy.
It's almost like he thought it wouldn't work.
Yeah, I don't think he was expecting it, right? It's like, you know, why go that far with the makeup? And then he reapplied it later because they had their moment. And then you see shots of him later with a full nose again and a full fresh nose. So you know at some point he had to go redo that. So you know he at least came prepared to redo his nose and whiskers. The dedication of this guy is pretty intense. I'll give him that.
I gotta interject. I gotta think that they probably did that for her sake because...
Oh, that would definitely stir some drama. Somebody would ask what happened to the nose.
It would make so much drama, and the guys would just be like, really? She just made out with that guy in full cat suit? Like, what are we getting into?
Hey, when you're going for a sex-positive contestant, you gotta be prepared for what that means. And sometimes it means wearing a cat suit.
Good lord. Wow, okay.
Anyway, let's move on now.
I'm sure there are other people in the show. What else happened?
We had Breaking Bad RV Jeff, who was some type of medical skin salesman. So...
what's your job? Oh, I sell medical skin.
Between that, the fact that he lives in an RV, and the fact that he kept bringing up how he wouldn't drug her and murder her in his RV, I saw a lot of red flags from him. Katie made a great decision in not sending him with a rose that night. I just don't know what his plan was. You know, I've never been won over by a guy because he told me he wasn't gonna murder me. You know, like, that's not how you want to open up.
Really? Huh. Hold on,
yeah, the lack of murder really just isn't a good conversation opener. And not only did he bring her, because at first I thought the RV was a gimmick, and I was like, all right, like, whatever, that's funny, it's weird, I don't get it, but it's funny. And then they went on the RV, and there was dishes in the sink. There were clothes on the couch. Like like it was so unkempt. And I was like, okay, so this wasn't a gimmick. This is this man's home. He like, you didn't think to clean up? Like, you're having, not only are you potentially bringing your potential wife or the person you want to be your wife into your home for the first time, you're also sharing that home with all of America. Like, you seriously, and you had 2 weeks to quarantine in that thing, and you seriously couldn't keep it clean for 2 weeks for one night. So that was, yeah.
I don't think chicks dig RVs.
Oh God, no. Not unless you're 50 years old and that's the thing that's going to save your marriage is a cross-country trip in it. Like,
that's what I was going to say. Not until you get your AARP card. And oh, that was kind of tough, because when he was like, "Oh, this is my home," I was like, "You're done, son."
Yeah, as soon as he was
you're not making it.
As soon as and honestly, he said that before. He brought up multiple times the fact that he wasn't going to drug her or murder her or carry her unconscious body into his van. Before all of that conversation, because he continued to bring it up multiple times, as soon as he said, "Yeah, this is my home," it was like, it's not even just like the RV thing. Like, sometimes people got to do what they got to do. They got to live in what they want to live in. There's the whole TikTok trend of buying an old bus, refurbishing it, and crossing the country. Like, that's one thing. But if that's your home and that's the state in which you keep it, buddy, like, should have just spent the money on the hotel room, honestly. But wasn't the best move on his part. Some other guys that stood out to me, because I feel like there's a lot of guys who had a lot of really cool things about them. We had Cody, who was the one on the other end of the drama. To me, he looked like Colton Underwood without a beard. We got that guy. We have our hockey-loving firefighter, Brendan, who I think is probably going to make it far. We got Andrew, the Austrian football player from the fake accent. I think he's going to go pretty far. But they all had things about them where it's like, yeah, you're cool and you're interesting and there's a spark. But that spark could be gone in like 3 weeks. Some of the people that I think at least really stood out to me and I think are going to stand out to Katie is we have Michael, who's the father of his 4-year-old son. I feel like that's really going to resonate with Katie and give them something to bond over. Because I think she is a very genuine person. When she told him, like, hey, if you want kids or if you have kids, that's cool. Or if you don't want kids or if you don't have kids, that's cool too. Like, I genuinely believe that from her, which I feel like props to her, because that is not a mode a lot of people can take. You're either for it or against it.
I don't believe her.
I believe her because I feel like she's been basing this whole
opinion on it.
No, she's been basing her whole brand this whole time on being open and honest and just very down to earth. And for some reason, I believe all that. But along with all of that, I also think, like, I'm not saying she's a perfect person at all. I'm not saying that there aren't things, like, I feel like there's going to be times where she might lose her cool or might be less understanding, because that's just human. But I did believe her when she said she was cool with that. So for now, unless we ever learn otherwise, I'm going to give her props for that, because that is not an easy thing to be cool with. And then we have Mike, who is our virgin of the season. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's one. It's a thing that's been happening.
Speak for yourself.
So each his own. I also think that's a very bold move of him to have this super, I guess, ideology or, that thing that's part of your life, and to go after a contestant who's been very, very vocal and open, literally from the first time she was on screen about, sex and sex positivity. It's bold. I don't think it's going to work. I feel like those two things are just too...
What? What do you mean?
Yeah, crazy, right? I mean, and you know what? I feel like that's... Unfortunately, I think that's going to be the only reason why it's going to work. Not going to work, I mean. We'll see if that happens, but I feel like that's going to... For most people, it tends to not be an issue, but I think for this pair specifically, it's going to be a downfall for them.
it seemed very important to her, and that's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, they're very contradicting ideas, and to each his own. There's not a problem with either, but
Live your life.
you know, opposites attract a lot, but I don't think that applies to this situation.
I agree.
I will say probably my favorite of the night and potentially my favorite of the season is Trey. Ball pit truck Trey seems just so full of energy. He seems like a guy that I want in my social circle. He seems like the guy who is always going to be able to make you laugh on a bad day, or who's always going to be able to tell you what you need to hear in a way that's not going to hurt. Maybe I'm projecting what I want him to be onto him. We'll see if he's actually that guy. But so far, I think I got to say Trey's going to be one of my top picks for this season.
Was he a salesman guy?
I don't know.
Was he the?
I've paid attention less to that for the guys for whatever reason, but the girls, it was a big point of focus for me because I was continuously impressed by the career choices of the girls from last season. But this season, I felt like it got brushed over. Like for none of them, it was a big thing other than, the firefighter and the football player. Everyone else just, seemed to have regular STEM, tech, sales jobs. Nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary, and that's not a bad thing. But the careers isn't what stood out to me this season about each guy.
No, I don't trust salesmen. That's just the thing. It's just a rule I live by. Don't trust them.
I'll agree with that.
Everybody's got to have a code, and I forget if he's a salesman or not. So I think he was kind of. Because I remember the ball pit. And the ball's going everywhere, and then she climbed into it. I think that seemed genuine. I don't think he was a salesman person. But if he is, I don't trust him at all.
I guess we'll have to find out next week and pay better attention to the name cards.
This is true.
The other two guys I want to talk about, obviously we're skipping over a lot because there are 30 men to get through. But I really want to talk about Boxman James. Because I feel like, I know we already discussed it a little bit, but I feel like the box was high risk, high reward. Because before we get to see James and before that happened, one of the issues we continuously see at the start of every season is on night one, the Bachelor, Bachelorette almost never gets to talk to everyone. Now, this week, I don't think we saw every conversation, but I do think Katie was able to talk to everyone, at least for a little bit, because when they don't get to do that, people complain. Like, yeah, sure, people were stressed as the night went on, but no one was like, I didn't get to talk to her at all. Like, she didn't make time for all of us, blah, blah, blah. That usually happens, and it didn't. But because that usually happens, with James being in this box and having no will of his own while in this box, I kept sitting there thinking to myself, Katie, please don't forget about the box. Please don't forget to go get him. Like, I would have been so upset if Katie got so distracted with every other man that she could see that she forgot about Box Boy. Because for me personally, the curiosity of what was in the box or who was in the box would have caused me to run to it as soon as it was time to talk to the guys. I would have been wanting to rip off the top of that because I have zero patience. I hate surprises. I need to know what's going on. So for me, James probably would have been the first person I spoke to, for the only reason being that I would have been too curious to not open the box right away.
Let me tell you, she was thinking about that box the entire time.
I mean, who wouldn't be? If someone's going to take the time, because if someone's going to take the time to put themselves in a box where they have no access to a restroom, they don't get any of the alcohol that everyone else is drinking to provide that liquid courage, like, it's a big risk, and you could get forgotten about, and you can't do anything about it because you can't see, you can't call out to anybody, you're just stuck in this wooden crate in the dark, sitting in the dark, waiting for someone to come get you so you could potentially meet the love of your life. You're literally stuck in that box with nothing but your thoughts. For that alone, I'd freak out.
Easy win. Smart play, easy win. That's all I'm saying. It's a smart move to do. That's
And I
you
will
create
say,
interest.
you certainly do. And I will say, another thing I was concerned about is like, what if this guy comes out of the box and he's super, super weird, or he's doing something weird, or he's like not cute? I was like, that would just suck because he went through all that and is gonna get sent home. I still don't know if I find him attractive or not, but his suit alone. Oh, I'm glad you do. His suit alone and the way he dressed, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I think this guy is probably gonna go pretty far. Just based off the way he came out and presented himself, I was like, oh, that is not what I was expecting to come out of that box. I was pleasantly surprised. So I'm actually rooting a little bit for James. Not as much as I am for Trey, but he's definitely high up there on my list.
No, I think he's gonna win. He seems like the smart player.
All right, I don't know about all of that. I definitely think he's going to make it far. My money's on
James. And he wasn't a skin salesman, so...
Yeah, already off to a good start.
I think the box, a little weird, don't get me wrong, but hey,
I liked it.
He created interest, and that's what it's all about, baby. That's what it's all about.
He also, when he came out, seemed... Like, I feel like in terms of Katie saying she wants a guy who is super comfortable with himself, super confident, knows what he wants, I think that's going to be James. I expect him to be all of those things because he came out with confidence. He seemed very, very easy to talk to, very personable. And when he came out from that box and then met up with the other guys, I felt like they all got a little nervous. They were all like, oh, this is not who I was expecting to come out of this box. So I feel like he's going to be everything Katie's looking for on paper, and that's going to get him very far, but I don't think they're going to have as much of a connection as she might initially think they're going to have based on those characteristics alone.
I think he's already won. I mean, I don't even really know why they're filming the show anymore, because, I mean, he's won.
Well, we could have a Dale Clare situation, and 3 weeks into it, we get an entirely new Bachelorette.
How many boxes do you think they're allowed per scene?
I'd really want to know what constitutes who gets to do what extravagant entrances. Like, is there a budget for it? Does every guy get a budget? Or is it like first come, first serve? You know, I wonder how that gets determined, because I feel like even if you're not the most creative person, effort goes a really long way in terms of what you do on this night. She doesn't have to love it. As long as she doesn't hate it, you know, you really can't go wrong. But I feel like that's only, maybe this is just me, I feel like that's only when it's the Bachelor, not the Bachelorette. I feel like as the Bachelorette, as long as effort is shown, that'll get you a long way. I feel like the other way around, if you're trying to appeal to the Bachelor, it's a very, very different approach. I feel like you have to do something not to form a connection, but that's going to make him remember your face before he remembers anything else. But maybe I'm just being a little critical of that. What would you say?
To all of that, I think you're probably right for the most part. I was just really hung up on one person in particular's entrance. Guy that said he was from Austria.
Andrew S.
And then spoke in an English accent.
Yeah. And then wasn't.
That's just stupid, because why would you sound like an English person in Austria? And why wouldn't you just say you're English?
But he's not. He's from Chicago, I think he said, or Cleveland or something.
But why would you do an English accent and then say you're from Austria? Because they don't sound anything alike. I'm sorry. I was so offended by that. I don't know why. I just felt like, why not just say you're from England?
See, if I was him, I would have just opened up with, hey, I'm a professional football player. I would have been like, oh, bet. Okay, sold. But maybe that's just me. I feel like that wouldn't have worked for Katie. Although I'm not sure the accent did either. Like, she found it funny. But other than a laugh and a giggle, what impression does that really make?
Well, is he?
He's an Austrian professional football player, so not NFL, but technically.
No, yeah. Well, is he though? Because he's Is he actually?
They showed pictures in his little entry
Oh,
reel.
did they? Okay, I totally forgot that.
Pay better
I don't know
attention.
why
You brought him up. You need to know your
I
facts if you're
know.
gonna say something.
It was just stupid that he did an English accent. That was stupid.
Yeah,
Because
but
Austrians are like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Austrian.
okay, that was stupid, but there were definitely throughout the night worse entrances.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Who am I to complain when Catman was a top
Yeah, but
contender?
Catman
So
was a big hit. I mean, RV guy didn't really go well for him. Hunter with his fake
oh
fish and pun, I feel like didn't land. Which personally, if it was me, not that I'd ever be the Bachelorette or in any of these situations, but if it were me,
you bring a real fish.
no. I'd hate the puns. There were a lot of puns. A lot of puns. I hate the puns. I mean, 9 times out of 10, they're not funny. Yeah, if you're that 10% and you give me a really, really funny pun, I'll appreciate it. But otherwise, I feel like it's just a cheap, gimmicky thing that's easy, and that's why guys do it. I don't want something that was easy. I want something that was thoughtful, something that, took more than a Google search to figure out. That's what would make an impression on me, if anyone is taking notes.
But you said your favorite was a truck filled with playpen balls.
Yeah, because that was fun and childish, and I feel like when you can appeal to someone's childish side, it allows them to open up in a way that's different, because as adults, we all feel like we need to be, this idea of what it means to be an adult. We need to be poised and impressive and sociable and confident. But at the end of the day, I think the best relationships are the ones that allow people to, bring out their childish side and had fun. Because at the end of the day, a relationship that'll last in the long term is one where you're going to have fun. And I think showing up with a ball pit is a great way to say, like, hey, I'm here to have fun. Like, this is what I like to do. It's like, I'm not afraid. It says I'm not afraid to do something a little kiddish, a little embarrassing, as long as it's something we both have fun with. You know what I mean?
Vaguely.
All right, well, then I guess I just wasted my breath on nothing. Our last guy that I do really want to talk about, and obviously we have to talk about, is the recipient of the first impression rose, Greg. I was, not to say not impressed by Greg, but he didn't stand out to me. I feel really, really conflicted about Greg, because he didn't stand out to me, which isn't a bad thing, because obviously he was very nervous. It was very, very clear how nervous he was. Which personally doesn't bother me at all. I think it's almost nice when they're nervous, because again, these are all just regular people who are doing this. These aren't Instagram models and all these people. Like, I actually looked at some of the guys' Instagrams last night. A lot of them have like maybe a couple thousand followers. Like, these aren't really popular guys. These aren't influencer guys. They're regular people. They're people that you're gonna bump into when you go out to the bar,
in an after school special,
or that. And that's one of the comments Greg made, where he was like, "Oh, if I saw you at a bar, like, I'd go up to you." And some people were like, "Eh." And even I felt about that. Like, I get what he meant. It was like, you would appeal to me in any situation other than this one, but this is the situation we're in. But at the same time, I feel like I feel like his quirky personality wasn't just him being shy. I feel like this is who he is, and maybe that's something that works out for Katie. Maybe it's something, I feel like a situation comparable is going to be like with Tayshia and Ben, where Ben's nerves always got in the way of him expressing how he was actually feeling, which ultimately ended his time on The Bachelorette, because she was like, you can't ever talk to me about what it is you're going through. Like, we can't progress this relationship. And he didn't get a rose. I feel like when it comes to Greg, it's going to be a similar situation. This isn't just him being shy. He's actually a quirky, shy kind of guy. It's not just first night jitters. This is just who he is.
When he said that about it reminded me of that song by the Flight of the Conchords. I think it's like called like The Prettiest Girl in the Room. And the whole song is about how Well, it's just that, like, this guy doesn't think she's super pretty. He's just like, well, at this party I'm at, yeah, you're probably the best looking.
That's how we met.
Oh, God.
I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm worried about him. I feel like he's going to go far, but I don't think he's the one. But we'll see. He did get the first impression rose. Clearly something he did. Probably the macaroni necklace. I will say macaroni necklace. Really, really nice touch. Definitely going to get you far in something like this to have close family ties. So points for that. And again, it's something super, super simple that's personable. It reveals a little bit about what's important to him. And at the end of the day, it was sweet. You know, as long as you're putting effort into something and it's sweet, you're already gonna win. Like, that's it. You're setting yourself up for success. That being said, I want us each to talk about our top 5 and our bottom 5 first impressions. I'm gonna start with my bottom 5, which is very contradicting in some senses to how Katie felt. In my bottom 5, we got Connor B in the cat suit. We got Hunter, who was the short one that kept saying, oh, I want my name called. He brought the fish. Aaron, the guy who started the drama. Carl, and Mike. Those are my guys that I'm like, not going to make it far. Wasn't impressed by what they had to show. Although Connor is probably going to make it the farthest out of everyone I just mentioned. But I don't think he's going to end up with Katie.
Which one was Carl?
Carl?
I feel like I don't remember
that is a
most
good question.
of these people.
I remembered who he was when I watched, and now that I'm reading his name, I'm like, I don't know who you are. And to my point, bottom 5.
No, I agree. I think I agree like 100% with Hunter, because, I mean, come on, man. If you're going to bring a fish, you bring like a real fish, or like, you know, you bring a real fish. I'm making a joke. You don't bring a fish at all. That's just, you don't bring fish. Mike, yeah, he's not going to make it. Yeah, really not going to make it. I don't know who Carl is, though. And Aaron, yeah, if Aaron's just going to be, you know, drama central, then that's never good looks. Nobody wants to deal with that. Nobody.
No, I mean, there's practically a plant every season, and it's very possible that he's the plant this season. Oh, I now remember who Carl was. Carl was the motivational speaker.
Oh, yeah. No, don't trust that guy at all. Not at all. He's a scumbag.
He seems like kind of a dick, for lack of a better term. He felt like, I feel like he thought he was the best person in that room, and if things weren't going his way, he took it very, very personally. Like, he's the one who kept down-talking Catsuit and Boxman, and it's like, a lot of people were, but he seemed very aggressive about it. And I think he's gonna make everything about him and not about Katie, and I think she's gonna notice that and send him home pretty early on.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I thought he seemed very disingenuous, and honestly, he seemed bitter.
Yeah, very bitter. Very bitter and very negative, which are two really weird traits to have if you're a motivational speaker.
Yeah, but I feel like all motivational speakers have those traits. I'm going to disagree with you, because Connor was also the music-y one, right? He was the guy with the piano, at the piano too. Like, that was him? Was that somebody else? And see, you got to watch out for those musical ones. They'll get you. They sneak up you all the time. They come out around a corner playing the guitar, and then boom, they're in your house with 6 kids. And
you know what it is?
Mortgage.
Everyone romanticizes the musicians. But you know what happens when you date a musician? You get an Olivia Rodrigo situation where you have an entire album written after you and your breakup, and you can never escape it, and public opinion is then on your back.
Oh, that's what he's doing.
So,
and you know what? She's gonna fall for it. They always do.
I feel like the musician is always, everybody wants to date the musician. Nobody wants what comes with dating the musician. It's like just this concept that is like, oh, that's so romantic. Is it though? Is it really? It's romantic if it works out, but is it going to work out? Probably not. And I say for Connor, it's going to be a no. But my top 5, I'm looking at Trey, James, Thomas, David, and Greg. Again, I'm only including Greg in my top 5 because he got the first impression rose. I feel really, really iffy about him still.
Because of his ears?
No, just because he just seems like, honestly, he seems like he's not mature yet. Not in a bad way, just more in like he needs to build up his confidence. He needs to become himself before he can be with anybody else. He seems like he's not there yet. So that's kind of why I'm thinking it's not going to work out. I think he's going to have more maturing to do. I don't think he's necessarily going to be immature like a kid. I think it's just he hasn't come into himself yet. He hasn't grown into his own shoes yet. And I feel like Katie's already at that point.
That was kind of funny. You gotta admit, that was kind of funny.
Anyway.
Wait, so he is in your top 5, though?
Only because he got the first impression rose. And...
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I say only, not really. I mean, don't get me wrong. He seems like a cute kid, but I'm saying cute kid, and he's probably older than me for the reasons I just explained, that he's not there yet.
Yeah.
Like, he's a guy that I cannot imagine getting down on one knee at the end of this.
Yeah, because his pants were so high, they just kind of shred. And your pants don't fit that well.
No, David's pants didn't fit that well.
Oh, David's pants?
I'm pretty sure. Multiple guys, but I'm pretty sure David was one of them. He is on my list, so I really like David. Thomas, the first guy out, I really liked him. I felt like he was very smitten with Katie. I mean, all the guys seem to be, which... After the cat suit debacle, I'm surprised, but they all seem to be very smitten with her, which is good.
Was David the teacher?
No.
Who was the teacher?
Connor, Catboy. Catboy. Dude, Connor showed up in a cat suit.
I thought Catboy was the teacher.
He is the teacher. He's a math teacher for middle schoolers.
Who's David?
David was...
I had like a fly into my mouth. Oh my god.
The only thing I remember about David was he was from Nashville.
Oh, he's gonna win it easy.
So you might run into David.
He's got it.
If you run into David and Katie going around the bars of Nashville, you gotta let us know.
I'll tweet him. No, he probably goes to downtown bars. Dirty scumbag. All right. Box Boy. James.
Yes.
He's my number 1. He's gonna win it. I'm putting my money on James. Who else? Who was Thomas?
Thomas was the first guy that she said that she was introduced to. He was wearing a navy blue suit.
Okay, I'm going James. I'm going Connor. I think for Greg, I think I'm gonna agree with you on Greg. He did apparently make the best impression. So you gotta give him that. Who else? Honestly, a lot of them just really didn't stand out to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. If I can give my predictions, I think Katie's going to move really, really fast through these guys. And I think there's going to be a few different reasons for that. I think one of the reasons being is we're going to have episodes where large groups are being sent home, like all at once, simply because she's not feeling it. And I don't think she's going to be one to keep these guys around if she's not into it. Another reason I think groups of guys are going to go home is if they're starting drama. If we get any of those 2-on-1 situations where she's got to sit 2 guys down and get out, figure out from them what's happening, what the deal is, I think she's going to send them both home. But another reason I think we're going to see guys go home this season is they're just not being themselves. They're not opening up. There's just something about them that's not connecting. And just like I said with Greg, I think it's just, it's going to get to a point where, his shyness and his quirkiness, while cute and endearing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But where in the real world, you have years to get through that and to get comfortable and to build your confidence with someone. In this situation, you got 3 months to open up more and build more of a connection than 30 other men and get married at the end of it. You know, you don't have that real world timeline where a personality like that is not going to get in your way. But I feel like in this atmosphere, it certainly will. So I feel like that's why we're going to see a lot of guys go home. The rumor as of right now is not who she ended up with, but that filming wrapped a week earlier than scheduled. So that tells me that Katie probably didn't play around. So all that being said, I do still think at the end of this, she will be engaged. I honestly have no clue as it stands right now. I have no guesses that I feel very confident in terms of who she's going to be engaged to, but I'd be very, very shocked if this didn't end in an engagement. A lot of times what we've been seeing recently is it's not so much an engagement it ends up with, but a relationship like we saw last season with Matt James and Rachel. I don't think that's the deal here. I think Katie knows what she wants. She knows she's ready to settle down, and she's not going to accept anything less than someone else who's just as willing to settle down as she is. So that is my guesses, or some of them. I don't think Katie's going to fall fast. I think a lot of the guys are going to fall really fast. So we'll see how that plays out, and we'll see if these guesses are right. I'll be very interested to see who sticks around and who gets sent packing.
I mean, James is gonna win, so it's...
All right, I'll say this in a recording. If James wins, I owe you $20 because I don't think it's going to be James.
Okay.
I really don't.
Okay.
I think he's going to go far, but I don't think it's going to be him.
Nah, see, I pick the ones that know how to bide their time. Kit, last season, if she wanted to win, she could have. But you know what she said? You know what, Matt? I'm done. I'm done with these games. She won her own prize, her own sanity.
I will say, kind of right. I was really shocked that you were semi-right about Kit last season. So,
I'm saying, I saw some. I mean,
I agree with you. People who can play the waiting game and bide their time and know when to make the right move, yeah, they do make it very far. But I don't see it between the two of them. And I think I'm going to be right on that.
What's in the box?
I did like the box, though. Points for the box, James.
It's like that episode of SpongeBob.
Oh, yeah, where they're in the imagination box.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably how he entertained himself for the 2 or 3 hours he was sitting in there. Right. But with that, I think we're ready to come to an end for this week's episode. Trash Talkers, we're back. It's always a pleasure. Thank you always for listening. Little heads up, Nash and I are actually going on vacation next week, so we will not be releasing a new episode, but we will recap episode 2 and episode 3 when we get back from vacation. Until then, let's hope we're off to a great start of the season, and that's a wrap.